This is Crystals 101. I am Griffin Shadow or Jennifer, whatever you want to call me. Don't care. Don't mind. It's all good. This is lesson number 3. There are 8 lessons altogether. Lesson number 3, that's what we're doing right now. This is the care and feeding of crystals. Please remember that if you would like to, you can join the Google Classroom. The code is 5A3KFBK. You can join the Google Classroom. It's got all of the information in there. It has the written material as well as the visual presentation, and it'll have the audio as soon as that goes up. All the good stuff. So I'm going to show you. Hey, look! It's like a Discord within a Discord within a Discord. I am now sharing my screen because I'm about to show you my presentation, but you can also follow along on the link that I shared in the chat room. Haha. 3 seconds too early. Too fast, sends the pessimist. Okay, now are you going to get in your spot? You finally done eating? Climb in. Don't just stand there. Get in. Get in your bed. There's a dog bed on the couch, and the ancient dog is like, do we want to curl up? I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. So in our first lesson, we went over the introduction and what I'm going to teach you. The second lesson was about ethical crystals, because that's mildly important. And this lesson is about care and feeding. This is now, and the first exercise, by the way, was last week, in which I asked you to do an inventory of the stones that you have. Now that you know what you've got, let's talk about how to take care of what you have. E in the chat asks, should we DM you our notes every week, or are we good as long as we do the exercises as far as focus courses go? Do the exercises, that's all I care about. If your notes are especially pretty and you want to brag, you can send that to me. Like, I will look at it and be like, ooh, but it doesn't count for anything other than, showing off. I'm a fan of showing off. Zero shame. So part of what I talked about with your rock collection and your stones and your crystals and stuff was the fact that sometimes your jewelry has rocks, stones, and crystals in it. So slide number 2 here. This is a close-up picture of my jewelry. I feel a little slightly embarrassed to show you that because of all the hair that's gotten in there. But I bought a jewelry display flat. It's a big flat thing, and I put a velvet pad inside, and I've laid out all of my pendants and my chains and all of my stuff. And it has a lid with a lock on it, a little flippy lid. And the top is glass, so I can see everything that I have. It's all laid out, and it's all protected so that nothing gets dusty. And that's all my stuff in there. So you see everything ranging from like glass, some cubic zirconia, amber, resin pieces, and then some jewelry, some crystals and whatnot, ranging from very ornate to incredibly simple settings. But this is a fantastic way to store your jewelry if you're into wearing pretty rocks. I have a weakness. I acknowledge my weakness. Also, let me mention while I'm showing off this. Ooh, a Larimar ring. That is beautiful. That's a nice chunk of rock. Very pretty. I've been collecting rocks and jewelry for a very long time. I started collecting rocks when I was in grade school. I still have some of them. There was a very memorable trip to the Grand Canyon in the 6th grade, and they have the bins with the tumbled rocks, and you could be like, ooh, I want some rocks. And my grandmother was like, okay, get some rocks. And I got me some rocks, and I still have them. So do not compare your rock collection with my rock collection. This is a lifetime's worth of jewelry and rocks and pretty stuff that I've been going, ooh, and snagging randomly. So, and don't think that it's a competition either, because you see, I've got pretty stuff, you've got pretty stuff, everybody's got pretty stuff. This is fantastic. You can have one pretty thing, or you can have a whole bunch of pretty things. It's all good. And every single picture that you'll see in this presentation today are pictures of my rocks. That's why I wanted to warn you, please don't feel competitive about the rocks. So basic care for rocks. If you don't know for certain that what you're about to do to your rock is perfectly harmless, don't do it. He says, if you buy with purpose and know why you're buying the crystals you'll be able to utilize them more and be mindful of your spending. Yes. Know what you're getting, why you're getting it, and treat it as if it is a valued and valuable thing. And mindful consumption rather than, gotta collect them all. Because you don't gotta collect them all. Some rocks, some stones and minerals and crystals are water soluble. That means if you take, as a fast dissolving thing, if you take a piece of, say, rock salt, drop it in water, it's going to melt. There's lots of stones that are water soluble and that can be hurt by getting them wet. Some stones are UV reactive. Leaving it in the sunshine would be a bad idea. It'll react to it. You can destroy your minerals and your crystals in your attempts to clean them. And this is especially prevalent when it comes to some kinds of jewelry, as an example. So in this picture on the slide, there's a bunch of stuff in that box, but most of what's in that box are fragile stones. They're the things that I'm like, let me put this somewhere special. Some of the stuff in there is not so fragile. There's a lump of copper ore. There's a piece of pyrite. There's chalcopyrite. There's a lump of petrified wood in that picture. But there's also desert rose, aquamarine, and opal. All of those stones can be messed up in water. Yes, Valencia says, they're not Pokemon. They are not Pokemon. You don't have to collect them all. And trust me, I say this to myself so many times. You don't have to collect them all. You don't need all of them. I just want them all. This is why I like going to museums and rock shows and rock collecting places. And if you go someplace where they're going to be selling some stones, set a budget and carry cash and don't spend beyond what you can, because some rocks are expensive. So opals, as an example, if your opal starts to look like it's not as shiny as it used to be, a tiny amount of water, like purified water, please, the tiny amount of water on the surface of it to kind of bring back out the luster, because what brings out the fire in opal is the fact that it is tiny spheres of silica, and in between those spheres is water. Which is why if you run it through like an ultrasonic, if you take your opal ring and you put it in an ultrasonic with the wrong kind of cleanser, you can mess up your very expensive piece of jewelry or your rock. But aquamarine, that bottom right kind of bluey, greeny, pale stone, that is aquamarine. And it's a very fragile stone. Water, depends on what you're doing with it while you're in water. Spritzing probably won't hurt it. Soaking it might make it fall apart. So let's talk about selenite. I love selenite. So I'm holding a piece of selenite right now because I love it so much. Teeny tiny itty bitty micro wand. This thing's like 2 inches long and maybe 1/4 of an inch thick. I love selenite. Selenite is calcium sulfate dihydrate. Ca(S) for sulfur, and then 2 H2O's attached to it. So the dihydrate is when you're looking at a stone and you're looking at the name of the mineral. The name of the mineral is going to tell you a whole lot. Calcium sulfate, both calcium and sulfur, tend to dissolve in water. Both of them do. Calcium sulfate dissolves in water. Dihydrate means there's water in this stone. It's bonded to the calcium sulfate. Which is why if you get selenite, if you soak it long enough, it will melt. It will dissolve. It will poof, it goes away. For selenite towers or wands, and in this picture you can see a tower, the tower looking thing, it's standing upright, and then laying down across the rough middle of the picture, that is a wand. That's a 2 foot long, or no, a foot long wand. It's only a foot. That's about an inch thick, square. So a wand or a tower or the Iceland spar, you can rinse, but do not soak. Rinse quickly and then pat dry. Rinse it if it gets dusty or has hair on it. And you can see that my tower is covered in fur. Whoops. I haven't rinsed it in a while. I don't care. Dust is aesthetic. It's pretty. I like it. The selenite calcium sulfate dihydrate comes in 4 basic forms. The tower, the Icelandic spar, desert rose, and a gypsum rose. I don't have a gypsum rose. I don't have that one. Part of me wants to say yet, but I don't have that one. I'm probably not going to get that one. It's a very fragile stone. But the square-looking lump of crystal down there, that's Icelandic spar. Icelandic spar was used by Vikings because it's translucent, you can almost see through it. So if you're on the ocean in the middle of nowhere and the whole entire sky is covered in clouds and you can't figure out where are you going, you've lost the sun, you can use Icelandic spar. Look through it at the sky and scan across the sky, you'll find the sun because the light transmits through it. So that's what they used Icelandic spar for. Desert rose is those kind of tawny looking funny little lumps in the lower left corner. Desert rose. Those are all the same mineral, just in different configurations. Desert rose and gypsum rose are very, very fragile and will melt in water. Do not get wet, no matter what. So to store selenite, it does not, like UV, doesn't matter. It doesn't care. In fact, desert rose is called a desert rose because it forms in the desert as a surface mineral, often in puddles that contained calcium sulfate dihydrate. When all the water evaporates out, it leaves behind desert rose. That's where that came from. So if you get it wet, it's going right back into solution again. And good luck ever getting it to reprecipitate back out in the form of that desert rose again. It ain't gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. And gypsum rose, similar to the desert rose. It just is a little bit whiter looking. I will talk more about selenite in a minute. Copper ore minerals. Copper ores, very, very pretty. Copper produces some of the prettiest colors you have ever seen. And my personal favorite stone, malachite. Oh, it's so pretty. That banded green stone that you see. There are 4 pieces of malachite in that picture that you see. The egg is malachite. There's a chip of malachite underneath the lump of copper ore, and then the 2 green spheres are both malachite. The blue spheres are azurite, which is another copper ore. Malachite and azurite are succession minerals. Malachite turns into azurite over time. If left in situ. Once it's mined and you've taken it out of where it was undergoing this metamorphosis, it stops. But malachite becomes azurite. So the three larger tumbled lumps that are mixed blue and green, that's malachite and azurite in succession together. Fantastic energy, amazing vibe to it. Love it. The two rocks behind it are sometimes called peacock ore, but those are chalcopyrite. That's two examples of what a chalcopyrite looks like. They can be damaged by water because they're copper ores. And copper and water goes, ooh, yes, don't mind if I do, please. Let's make chemistry together. And then bad things happen. It will discolor the minerals and they're so pretty. Why would you do that? Don't do that. Like, don't do that. Aren't they pretty? Carrie says that she loves them. I love them too. They're so nice. I love them. Oh, they're gorgeous. Chalcopyrite. Mostly it's a rock with a cool sheen to it. A coppery, purple, bluey, teal. It's just all of the royal jewel tones that I love so much. Like, I would decorate my entire life in those colors. I've dyed my hair those colors, specifically to look like chalcopyrite, because I love it. Mineral-infused waters are very, very popular, and I have seen, so E posted a picture in the chat room of her current research setup, and you can see she's got a mineral water bottle with a big mineral pillar in it for mineral-infused water. It's a big thing. People are like, ooh, mineral water, and then you infuse the energy of the mineral into your water, and then you drink it, and I've seen them with malachite. Probably not like super extremely bad for you, because most municipal water supply companies have a certain amount of copper that they're allowed to have in the water as it stands. Like, there's a certain parts per million of copper ions allowed to exist in your drinking water. Like, I have tap water right here. Tasty and delicious, probably has copper in it. That's okay. A little bit's okay. The main problem with malachite in those mineral infusion bottles, malachite's porous. It's mildly toxic. If you drink enough of it often enough, you can potentially build up enough copper to cause the gut bacteria that live inside of your body and help you digest your food to have a small revolution, and then you're going to spend time in the bathroom regretting all of your life decisions for 12 to 24 hours. But malachite's porous, and the main problem with most of these mineral water bottles, how are you going to clean that? You know? It's porous. You're gonna wind up with mold in there, like a wet mold or a mildew growing. It's multiple reasons why I would not, despite the fact that I really, really love malachite. I'm like, oh, I would drink it if I could, but except no, I wouldn't. I would not actually drink that. I'd look at it. I would pry the rock out of it. Also, I don't know what they use to secure the stone in place, so there's multiple questions that I have. Oh, and since I mentioned E's water bottle, her water bottle has a piece of opalite. Opalite is a man-made stone. It's glass, completely non-reactive and non-porous, and it can be sterilized. That distorted weirdly. God, my hand looks really long in this picture. All right, quartz. Silicon dioxide is the single most common stone on the face of the planet. I love quartz. You love quartz. You probably don't even know all the ways in which you love quartz. You love silicon dioxide. It is ubiquitous. It's used in so many applications. Oh my god, that's why there's an entire lesson on just quartz and agate, which are the two major forms of silicon dioxide. All quartz is UV and heat reactive. In the written material and in the resources for this visual presentation, there's a link to a website that was talking about, and you'll be able to see it when the resources page comes up, UV and heat reactivity in quartz. And it's got a very fascinating picture on that webpage, and I highly recommend that you go read that resource and you look at that picture because it is revealing. They took a chunk of amethyst and cut it in 4 pieces. Nice and neat, so you can put it back together again, and they left one piece alone, and one piece they heated to one temperature, and they heated another piece to another temperature, and the 4th piece they exposed to ultraviolet radiation, and you can see what effect each of these treatments had on that lump of very beautiful, dark amethyst. It's distressing, is what I'm saying. All quartz is UV and heat reactive. Now, the odds that you're going to be able to expose your crystals to enough heat to make them change, we're talking 450 degrees. So if you're sticking it in your oven for a few hours on high, yeah. Your windowsill, not likely to get a heat reaction from that. But your windowsill over time will expose your quartz crystals to enough ultraviolet radiation to change their color. It bleaches quartz to white. All quartz will bleach out to white under ultraviolet radiation, and UV is part of sunshine. It's the reason why if you're going to go outside in the summer, you put on sunblock to block the ultraviolet radiation because it cooks your skin. It also messes with your stones. Rose quartz, amethyst, and citrine all react to ultraviolet light, but rose quartz is the most sensitive to ultraviolet light. Yeah, Jenny says, I just saw that heat picture. It looks like root beer citrine. That's one way they can make citrine. They take a low quality amethyst and heat treat it and it becomes citrine. Ta-da! That's also where ametrine comes from. If you've ever run across a chunk of that, I saw a sphere that was about the size of my fist that was an ametrine sphere. And it was purple and yellow and gold swirled. I have no idea how they got that effect, but it was gorgeous. And obviously I don't have it because it was also $150. But it was so pretty. Simple says, so basically you'll be left with clear quartz. More likely you'll be left with milk quartz. Rose quartz, amethyst, and citrine are all often not clear. They're not translucent enough or transparent enough to bleach to clear. They bleach to white. That's where most milk quartz comes from. Rose quartz is incredibly UV reactive. So the veins of rose quartz that are mined, all of the parts of the vein that are closest to the surface of the earth, are paler than the deep veins. And it's because a little bit of sunlight gets through a crack in the ground, hits the rose quartz, refracts through it over millennia. The closer it is to sunlight, the more exposure it has, the paler it gets. You can go to a rose quartz mine, and there's just chunks of subpar rose quartz all over the ground. That's white and very pale pink mixed together because it's too much UV. Too much UV. Kyla says, would the clear or white quartz stay the same? It would. Check your clear quartz, though. Look inside the stone to see if it has any inclusions. If it looks like there's a phantom, this is something we'll go over in the quartz lesson. Don't worry. If there's a phantom or an inclusion or there's something in the stone, that can be UV reactive and might change color. So most of my points I keep away from sunlight just because I don't want the structure inside the stone to suffer in any way. But if it's already a milk quartz, like pale white, like milky, looks like milk. Yeah, it's fine. It can't bleach any further than white. And E says aura quartz is a metal coating, right? Yes, it is. I swear I will tell you all about this. It's a molecule thick layer of a metal that has been coated onto often a not very good quartz point or quartz crystal to create an aura quartz. Titanium, gold, and platinum are the most commonly used metals, and they all produce different sets of rainbow flash on the quartz. It's really cool. So the most prized of the rose quartzes is the pinky purpley tone rose quartz. Hard to get because you gotta mine it really, really deep. Hard to keep because it's UV reactive. I rotated that image. Why didn't it save? Dang it. Okay. How to cleanse your crystals. When in doubt, soft, dry cotton flannel cloth. Dust it. Rub the stone. Please do not use commercial cleaners on your rock collection. On behalf of your rock collection, may I just say, don't do that. Don't do that. No. The most I would ever use on a quartz, an agate, a chert, a piece of petrified wood, some of the precious stones. There's always a reason why you should not. You might, if you have like a quartz sphere, okay, or a glass sphere. In this image, you can see the malachite egg is in there. Everything else in that box, you can get wet. Not the malachite. Most of what's in there is fluorite, there's sodalite, glass, an obsidian sphere, and there's a picture jasper heart kind of underneath that blue lump. Those are all perfectly fine. And if you want to put a really nice shine on any of those stones, if it's perfectly okay to use water on it, you can also use, the dog says hi, Windex, an ammonia-based cleaner, but only on quartz, agate, and chert. And obsidian. And fluorite. Those will be fine, not the other ones. And it gives you a really pretty shine. But most other stones, please do not do that. Uh-oh. Ginny says, there's a picture here that there's an amethyst my mom borrowed for her classroom and didn't know it shouldn't be in the window. Yeah. That's the damage that UV will do. That is an almost pure white stone. Like there's some purple hints to it. I can tell what it used to be. Yeah, best lighting for the picture. Oftentimes you have to expose it briefly to a little UV to get a good picture. But, yeah. It should still carry the energy of amethyst. But that poor stone. Ouch. Ouch. When in doubt, Google it. Wikipedia, believe it or not, is a great resource for looking up the chemical composition of your stone and finding out, is this water soluble? Look it up. When in doubt, do research. Don't trust your own memory. I always double check before I'm like, oh yeah, that's perfectly safe. Wait, hang on, let me double check. He absorbed happy children vibes. Oh, that's good. He gave up his color for the cause. If you want to energetically cleanse your stones, some people put them in salt. Some stones should not be put in salt. The copper ores, as an example, don't put those in salt. Copper. Okay, salt is NaCl, sodium chloride. It breaks apart very, very easily and is an oxidizing agent. So on metal ores, any of the copper ores, iron ores, and copper is the most common. There's some silver ore minerals that are very, very pretty. It'll rust if you put those in salt. Rust is oxidation. Salt is an oxidizing agent that causes rust. If you put salt with even a hint of moisture, just because the moisture helps break the salt apart. If you put a little bit of salt in a humid environment on pretty much anything, you'll mess up the surface. Yeah. Yeah. Quartz and salt are fine. Agate and salt are fine. The copper ores, the leads, silver ores, iron ores, any of those would not be okay with salt. Because chemistry. Not necessarily because of the energy, but just because of what chemistry is going to do. You don't want to accidentally do a chemistry experiment on your altar. That sounds like a terrible idea. So if you want to energetically cleanse, yes, and E says, even if it won't rust, check the Mohs scale to see if it's too soft and easily scratched. Lithium and salt, bad idea. Yes. Also, lithium's toxic. just throwing that one out real fast. That's toxic. Don't lick it. And don't put it in salt. In fact, lithium is a salt. Lithium is often found as a salt. So, chemistry. Chemistry's tons of fun. So to energetically cleanse your crystals, use your breath. Now, I also teach Energy Work 101, and we will be going over banishing and cleansing techniques in exhaustive depth. An hour-long class about just this. So you can use your breath, coupled with visualization, to move energy through a stone in much the same way that you would when you are grounding and centering yourself. You just do it through the stone or with the stone. And that is such an really fast explanation, but there's several more slides I want to get through. So, come to my energy work class. We're going to talk about it. You can use a smoke cleanse. That often I like to blow smoke across because I'm using the energy of the smoke coupled with the visualization and my own energy through my breath to whoosh energy through whatever it is I'm cleansing. You can also use a sound vibration. So a singing bell, or a singing bowl, or bells, or chimes, or a drum, or chanting, or singing, or whistling at it, or finding a YouTube video of the perfect, like the 528 hertz sound to use. Any of those. Whoosh the energy right through. Elygia says, alchemy? Live out your medieval cottage witch fantasies. Speaking of energetic cleansing, there are 3 stones that you can't cleanse. If you manage to, I want to talk to you. I want to find out about this. Hematite. Hematite is that silvery looking stone in there. It looks like metal. It's not. It is a metal ore, but it's not a metal. Hematite, it absorbs energy. It absorbs all sorts of energy. And then it grounds it. All of it. Like that. It's great. If you're like, I'm going someplace that's going to be very high energy and I'm going to freak out, carry hematite. Put it in your pocket. A necklace made out of hematite. A ring made out of hematite. They're very, very popular. Hematite is easy to get a hold of. Hematite rings happen a whole lot. They're out there. They're great. If you are wearing hematite and then think to yourself, I'm going to do magic, and you try to push energy, the hematite's going to absorb that. Your magic's going nowhere while you're wearing hematite, while you're holding hematite, while you're carrying hematite. It's going to absorb all of that energy. Hematite's great for taking in sharp spikes of energy, but when it does, it has a tendency to break. It will crack because you overwhelmed the stone and it went, nope. So if you're wearing a hematite ring and the ring breaks, for one thing, the stone's kind of fragile. You might have knocked it on something. But also, it absorbs spikes of energy and breaks. I've broken way too many. Yes, E says, I recommend getting a crystal cage and small crystals if you want to wear them. Smaller crystals are cheaper. You can easily swap them in and out as needed. Any of the pictures that you see that feature a really, really tiny little sphere, those are from my crystal cage. Ellie says, every dang time I've gotten hematite rings, they always break. And Taylor says, I had a hematite ring and within 2 days it snapped completely in half. Uh-huh. If you wear it while you try to do magic or move energy, you are what caused it to snap. But if you wear it while not doing energy in a high energy situation where like people might be angry at you or upset in general, or people are just, freaking out and you happen to be near them, it can snap in that too. Taking a walk in a park and it just went, haha, nope. Yeah, that can happen. Kyanite. I love kyanite. Kyanite is a very fragile, flaky mineral. It can come in white, blue, pink, or purple, sometimes striations. The bluey looking stuff in that picture, that's kyanite. Kyanite absorbs energy. It then emits that energy as a very, very high vibration. Very high vibration stone. It takes in energy and goes, nope, and emits it. Not in a form that we can really use, other than to know that that's what it's doing. That energy is going in and then coming out again at a high frequency. You can use it as a kind of knife, an energy knife. So it's good if you're doing advanced energy healing techniques. Kyanite's fantastic for that. For if you're like, I'm going to cut this thing out of you. Which, if you're not ready for that, that sounds terrifying, but that's what kyanite's really, really good for. You also don't have to try to use the energy that it emits. You can just let it emit. It spreads high energy, high vibrations, often above a frequency that you can use or even be aware of. It just kind of sings happily in this really high tone. It's wonderful. E says for shadow work too. Yes, kyanite's great for that. If you go into a high meditation, like a high vibration meditation with kyanite, it's wonderful. I love my kyanite. Also, the more energy you move into and through a kyanite, the better the color of it gets. The one that's in the very, very front of this picture has had more energy moved through it than the other versions of kyanite in that picture. They're from the same lot of stones. The really big one at the top is a different kyanite. I've had that one for years. But the smaller flaky pieces all were from the same allotment of kyanite that I got. But I've used this one, and I'm holding it right here. Hi. Kyanite. I've run more energy through it, and the color deepens as you use it. Sand says, should we have kyanite if we have animals? Will it upset them? I have 4 dogs and 3 cats, and I'm currently running energy through kyanite, and they're all sleeping. They'll be fine. It's a high enough vibration that the animals don't even notice. They're like, what? You're doing stuff? Oh, whatever. Nap time. So selenite. We talked about selenite. Calcium sulfate dihydrate, right? Selenite also absorbs energy. This is why selenite is so popular. So popular. In addition to being water soluble, it absorbs energy and then it emits exactly the same form it took in. All selenite does is it it facilitates the movement of energy. So if you have a hard time getting energy out of you and into something else, selenite. Selenite's what you need to use. Hold the selenite in your dominant or projecting hand if you want to move energy out of yourself. Move energy into the selenite and it comes right out the other end of it in exactly the same shape it went in. Selenite does not alter the energy in any way. This is why you can't cleanse it. I'm going to cleanse this. Oh, look, cleansing came out the other end. It's a self-cleansing stone, just like kyanite and hematite are. Valencia says, how long will selenite emit good energy it's taken in? Does it have an energy limit, like a charging time? No, it's pretty much instant. It's a wand. This is why selenite wands are so popular, especially with energetic healers. Selenite wands are used by energetic healers because it makes it so much easier. You hold the stone, you think of your intent, whoosh, energy comes whooshing out. Like, it's a tool. That's what it's for. It is one of the most neutral of stones, and yet the most useful of stones. Selenite's pretty awesome. It's great. So, how do you store your rocks? How do you get good energy into your rocks? I just went over 3 stones. Good luck charging that. But how do you charge these things? Boxes. You will notice most of the pictures that weren't of me going, look, here's a grouping of specific stones that I pulled out of my collection. All the rest of them were pictures of them in boxes. I've got boxes on boxes for days. Pandora ain't got nothing on me. Boxes. This is 6 little drawers that go in this tiny little apothecary style chest that sits on my altar. And I've got spheres and egg shapes and quartz points and my fancy points, random shaped stones. There's all sorts of stuff in there, but that's things that I'm like, it goes in boxes. Boxes. If your stuff is fragile, put padding in. The second image that had the miscellaneous stones also had some padding in there, because that's where the desert rose lives. That's where my big piece of kyanite lives. That's where some of the more fragile stuff lives in that box. It's padded. So if you want to charge something and you don't know if you can leave it in the sunshine, whoops-de-doodle, you can charge by contagion. In the same way that you cleansed, you can use breath, you can use smoke to push energy into your stones, you can use sound and vibration to carry energy into the stones. You can also charge by contagion. If you want to put solar energy into your pretty rose quartz, you can. You just gotta add a step. Instead of setting your stone in a windowsill and forgetting about it for several months, please don't ever do that. It hurts me when you do that. Put something non-UV reactive in the sun. A chunk of opalite, for example. Again, opalite's a man-made stone. It's basically glass. It holds a charge from sunlight really well. It's great. The energy of opalite is fantastic. It's like the goddess Iris, you know? Like rainbows. It's just spring and happy and it's good. Charge that in the sun. Put it next to your quartz, next to whatever it is that you're trying to charge. It will emit. Your rose quartz will accept this energy. Boom. We're also going to talk about crystal grids and how to use a crystal grid to do charging by contagion, but this is already running long. You can also stick your stones in moonlight, but this means you better get up when the sun comes up. Mainly for the UV. A little bit of UV won't hurt your stones. Just please don't forget about them in a windowsill for months on end. You will be sad. You can use breath, vibration, and visualization to charge your stones. I have a thing about spheres. The chat's like, ooh, spheres. Uh-huh. Because spheres is so pretty. So this is your second exercise for Crystals 101. You've done an inventory. You've looked over your stones. You know roughly what you've got. You have an idea. You have a concept in your head of what do you have. How are you storing it? Is the way that you're currently taking care of your rocks, is this up to your own standards? Do you think you could do better? Could you do something differently? And if so, what? So, you're going to write about it. You're going to do a little journal exercise or something. Some. Examine your rock collection and decide for yourself, are you doing a good job or is there room to improve? How would you make your rock and crystal collection safer and better cared for? And yes, this includes your jewelry. How can you take excellent care of your treasures? Is there room for improvement? And sometimes your room for improvement might be as simple as I'm going to put a piece of cloth over my stones to protect them from ultraviolet light because I don't have anywhere else to put them and I can't afford a box right now. All right, awesome. For the very longest time, all of my spheres were stored individually in socks. They were perfectly safe and very clean, but I would drop a sphere down into the toe of a sock. I have a few spheres. A few. They're padded, they're not in the UV, they're perfectly safe. It was great. Right? Jesus, hides the rock-holding teacup in the large plastic box under my bed. I mean, it's up to your standards, not mine. Not my standard. I mean, my standard is... I have a thing about boxes, I'm sorry. I've got so many boxes full of rocks. And a plastic box? Hey, that works. Sweet. The picture on this image, that's actually a wine presentation box. So that's big enough to stick a bottle of wine in. I got it at, I think, like, Michael's or Hobby Lobby before Hobby Lobby was, like, noticeably evil. And I stained it, and I sealed the outside of it, and I made it all pretty and fancy, and it's full of tumbled stones, miscellaneous tumbled stones. Nothing that's in there is fragile, because it's a box of tumbled rocks. That's literally what it is. It's heavy as heck, too. Which is why I wanted a good sturdy box for it to go in. Because the velvet bag that I used to keep all my rocks in, they got heavy enough they split a seam, and that was a mess to clean up. So, that's it. That's your exercise. That's what you're going to do. Aw, Jenny says, my pictures look like professional stock photos. With hair. There's so much cat and dog hair in all of these pictures. I can see it, and it bothers me. I'm like, ooh, I got so much hair. Ooh, but thank you. I had fun taking pictures of my rocks. It was my version of the inventory was to take pictures of stuff. So here are the resources, and the one I want you to look at, the geologyin.com link, changes in color of amethyst by heat. That one. That's got the image that you need to look at. I use the National Audubon Society Field Guide to North American Gems and Minerals. I also use Love is in the Earth by Melody. I looked up selenite on Wikipedia just to make really certain that I had its chemical formula correct. I looked up copper and copper ores because I wanted to be certain before I said anything. And of course, fluorescent minerals, because this is bonus. Because if I just spent almost an hour telling you, don't do this. Okay, now here's one. Fluorite. Oh, fluorite. I want you, if you've got fluorite, you need to put it in the sun. The word fluorescence derives from the mineral fluorite because of what fluorite does in ultraviolet radiation. UV in the form of either a black light, like a black light lamp or a UV lamp, or the natural ultraviolet that happens from our sun every single day, in the sun, all the way into the center of the sun, yeeted into the sun, not just carried outside on a sunny day. It is strongly UV reactive. Strongly UV reactive. Most UV reactive stones that fluoresce or glow under a black light, you have to like shine a concentrated light source on them in a dark room to see it glow. Fluorite is so strongly UV reactive. If you take it outside on a bright sunny day for like an hour, put it in the sun, and then bring it back inside, and you like go to the bathroom and shut the door and turn the light off and look at your stone. It'll glow. It glows. It's the coolest thing ever. Oh, I love fluorite. Fluorite is a tetrahedral crystalline shape. The dark looking one that has the pillar sitting on top of it, because I stacked it because I'm a nerd. That's what the natural fluorite shape is. Everything else in this picture has been cut into shape. Fluorite grows in enormous crystals. It's often it comes from I want to say Minnesota. Somehow now I'm second guessing myself. It's an American stone, often up close to Canada. Grows in enormous crystals, comes in everything ranging from white to blue to teal to purple to pink. Gorgeous, gorgeous rocks. I love fluorite. It's so pretty. Yeah, a heart that glows cyan after being left on a light. That'll work. So, yes, fluorite. It's so pretty. Also, I completely forgot to write down anything about what its energy does. I was just so enamored of the glow of it. Fluorite related to fluoride in your water, like it's put in your water to strengthen your teeth. So it's a mineral. It has associations with strength and purity. Fun. So rocks and crystals. Whew, look at that. Just at an hour. I covered a whole lot of stuff. Please remember, if you have questions, you can go to the chat room and drop them in there. If you're shy, you can DM me. I'll have this audio finished and edited and uploaded at some point tonight, and then I'll finish the video tomorrow for you guys. But that's it. That's crystals, lesson number 3, the care and feeding of crystals.